Well, we're back to freezing cold Irish Decembers with the rain pissing down. I guess what happened to all this tropical weather and this dry, sunny weather we were all supposed to be getting with climate change. And that's what this video is about. And it's a run on from the video yesterday about ideological avatars. If you guys need new people out there, you need to really start seeing what's going on with this climate movement and this climate fighting climate types, Extinction Rebellion and so on. You've got to start seeing this in spiritual terms because it really is about the harvesting of souls. Now, before I go into detail about this, that's why I've created this new term, Carbonmancy. It's using the concept of carbon in a magical sense to achieve a desired result. Now, if you haven't seen the video on ideological avatars, go back and look at that from yesterday first, and then watch the rest of this. Basically, it deals with people who are possessed by ideology. Now, people who are possessed by ideology, regardless of it being left-wing, right-wing, neo-fascist, neoliberal, Marxist, Bolshevism, religious, flying saucer cults, you name it, they all have a dead, vacant stare in their eyes. And there's an element, it's not just a dead, vacant stare, it's an element of malice in it. What that indicates is there is no soul anymore. The soul has been taken, or it never existed. Now, what do meat golems who don't have a soul, what are they compelled to do? Either the soul has been taken through ideology or through a cult leader, or through maybe something that happened to them at birth or early childhood. What does someone who has no soul attempt to do? They attempt to garnish or harvest souls for themselves. Now, I was looking at photographs and videos of those Day of Climate protesters, kids all walking out. And what I thought initially was a bit of fun and a laugh is now really quite frightening. Those kids in those marches all had, well, not all, but so many had that look. As did so many the millennials and the kind of civil servant types who were able to get a day off work because private sector workers don't get paid for doing things like that. The soul has been lost. This is a result of being told by their school teachers, you're going to be dead soon. Remember that scene in The Exorcist where Reagan comes to the party and she walks in while the priest is playing the piano and the astronaut's standing there and they're all having a posh dinner party in Georgetown, and she looks at them, she pisses on the ground and goes, you're going to die up there. Well, these children are hearing that every day of their lives. They're being told every day in school, it's on every child's TV program, it's on everything. Your extinction is imminent. This causes soul loss in some children who are actually terrified. This is real black magic we're talking about, and it causes soul loss. And this is why they're walking around glazed over, going Greta, 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 Extinction Rebellion, and all you have is that soul loss replaced by ideology, cliches that have been placed into their heads. Polar caps melting, older people have to change. We have to stop flying. All this, all the mantra, we have to change, and yet they don't actually have. None of them will have a solution, because the ideologues that have put these into their heads don't give them a solution. Now, you might think that people like that are completely useless. They're not. They're amazingly useful for cults and totalitarian regimes. Totalitarian regimes, right? So I'll give you an example. If you're a totalitarian regime or a cult leader, you don't want people who are doing anything else other than serving the ideology. You don't want them. An example of that would be the Khmer Rouge and Pol Pot in Cambodia, Kampuchea, when they renamed it that for a while. After the war, the Revolutionary War had ended and Pol Pot and the Khmer Rouge had taken control, they put out these things all over the news and media and all around the universities and colleges and schools saying, Our country has been badly damaged by this war. If you want to come back and play your part in rebuilding Cambodia or Kampuchea, we'd love to have you on board. So all these people who said, yeah, I've got to do something, the schools are in bits, the hospitals are wrecked. So anyone who came forward who wanted to rebuild a hospital, rebuild a school, rebuild a railway, rebuild a road, rebuild the infrastructure, rebuild the society, and were doing it for the reason that they cared about their fellow man. They were doctors, lawyers, farmers, school teachers, workers, all class of life. They went down to the Khmer Rouge and said, yeah, it's a good idea, we like this, we want to rebuild Cambodia, Kampuchea for the people. They were immediately taken out and shot because the Khmer Rouge did not want people who were idealistic for the right reasons rebuilding their country. The Khmer Rouge wanted people who were only supported the Khmer Rouge, who only wanted to hear Pol Pot. And this is why a soul is removed. This is why these soulless types, the meat golems, the extreme meat golems with no souls, are sought out by ideologues for this reason. For the totalitarians, they want them. And I saw that all over those videos of those kids marching around the world with the dead vacant eyes, the millennials with the dead vacant eyes. It was the Khmer Rouge, with lattes. That's really what that was. And this is why they put Greta Thunberg, because obviously there's something wrong with that child. As you can see, there's a vacancy there. It's now held up as the model for the future because that's what they want. Now, you had situations, the same situation developed in the Chinese Cultural Revolution, where you had young school children walking into villages carrying banners and pictures of Chairman Mao and holding up the little red book and saying, the world now belongs to us, China now belongs to us. And they would literally casually just murder anyone over 40. And what's this movement always telling us? Evil old men, evil middle-aged men who won't, these that are frightened of these children. Oh, yeah, these men are frightened. They're instinctually frightened of these children for the same reason they were frightened of them when the brown shirts came into villages in Bavaria, when the Chinese Communist Party youth membership came into villages in China, when the Khmer Rouge youth organization and committees came into Cambodian towns, when the Bolsheviks came into everywhere, because there was the same types walking in there with the dead eyes, carrying their signs. Now they're in the past they would carry communist banners. Now they're carrying signs saying, stop cow farts or whatever, like that. No, and you had that with the colleges saying, we don't want any more of these old white men or old men telling us what to do. And those of you who think it's only going to be white people, an ideologue, you want to meet the most vicious killer of all is someone who will kill for ideology, because they don't care if you're black, white, or any religion or not, regardless of age, you have to go. And this is what this whole thing is saying. Now, why do they kill? You're going to get a hell of an education in this video, so pay attention. When you don't have a soul, either through ideological avatar soul complete replacement, that's when the ideological avatar has completely replaced the person, the self, and soul loss then ensues, where you're just an empty vessel of ideology and dogma poured into you. You have an instinctual desire to need a soul, to harvest a soul. Now, if you look at all the things about the likes of, say, serial killers, Ted Bundy, all of them, they'll always tell you the same thing, that they all feel dead and empty inside. So do borderline women. Borderline women are dead and empty inside. Hence all the superficiality and the love bombing, and why they run on smear campaigns afterwards. It's a desperate need to feel alive at some level. And this is why there's also a terror of abandonment, because that abandonment forces them to look inside themselves and see there's absolutely nothing. And that's where that comes from. And the same thing with the psychopath. The psychopath is constantly aware that inside them there's absolutely nothing. So that's why you read. I remember seeing lots of them, not just Ted Bundy, where he said that when the second or the moment when the life went out of the woman's eyes when she died, that was when he felt the most alive. That's the internal need to harvest the soul by the soulless. And this is why the Khmer Rouge, the Bolsheviks, the National Socialists, and countless other, they're everywhere. Every country's had them. Every society's had them. They killed without mercy. Within the Chinese Cultural Revolution, it was very common for the youth committees to take half of a village into a field, and they'd be all, generally the adults, anyone over like 25, 30, kill half of them and let the other half live, so there would be a bullet of fear left into their minds. And that's what you're seeing with all this stuff. You're seeing the soulless, a whole generation who've been told when they're in school, you are going to be dead soon. Because of carbon, you are going to be dead soon. And that's why I'm calling it Carbonmancy, because it's a form of magic, a sorcery, using carbon in order to control the will or the desire of others. And the reason why and how they're doing is they're creating these pathological automatons who are soul deficient or soul lost. And some of them will be born that way. This is why, do you always remember when you were in school, that the kids who generally became the most ideological or the ones who became religious fanatics were often the ones that had no real personality depth. They're always looking for, the avatar is the nearest thing they'll ever have to a soul. And then you have the others who start out perfectly normal and end up with an avatar. Remember that film, the musical, The Sound of Music, where that song, I Am 16 Going on 17, and the girl was singing with her brown shirt boyfriend, and for a moment, you see the brown shirt, that was his last vestige of this brown shirt, of his personality before he'd been completely replaced by his ideological avatar. And at the end of the film, he's a complete Nazi, because the soul that fell in love with that girl no longer exists. And this is the problem with ideology. And cults as well. You look at I saw that film recently, the Quentin Tarantino film, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Excellent movie, by the way. And it gives an alternative sort of reality version of what would happen if the Manson family, which really should be called the Tex Watson family, had have knocked on the wrong door. But it showed, or if one of them just ran away and saved herself, and it showed what ideological replacement or ideological avatar possession is like. They showed them like in the Manson family compound out at the old movie studios. The same thing. There's a malice there. There's a bonding. It's just everything's lost. And also, everything, you'll see this with borderline females as well, the flirty fishing, lots of flirting, lots of love bombing. And you see that with the women who are who are ideologically possessed, lots of flirting, lots of love bombing. And that was very heavily used, not only by cults, but also by things like the Bolsheviks, very heavily used. And you will see this, they haven't moved onto that phase yet, but you will see it. They're working on children at the moment, so therefore, even though Greta Thunberg is 16, they make her look like a 9-year-old, because if you say there's something not right there, they say you're a bully, you're a despicable bully picking on a little child. It's the same tactic used by the borderlines in feminism. You're picking on a poor innocent woman. Even if she makes a false rape accusation, she's a poor innocent woman. You're bullying. You're a misogynistic bully picking on a poor innocent woman. See, this is why from day one I've come on to these videos from 10 years ago now. I've been telling you, avoid ideology, stay away from dogma, get away from systems. Just find what you can find in society that will suit you. Because let me tell you, there is no win in an ideology, absolutely none. Not if you're a normal person. So just like the Khmer Rouge asking all the well-intentioned people to come forward, this Carbonmancy cult is asking all the well-intentioned, let's say, and there's people who genuinely want to have energy systems that are not polluting. They genuinely have fallen for all this stuff, even if it's true or not. It could be true, it could not be true. I don't know enough about science that is or not. I'm not here to argue about if climate change is real or isn't real. I'm here to say that this is a very frightening and disturbing cult that's manifesting, and a very dangerous cult. Now, there could now let's go into the world of conspiracies, right? You've all seen the Georgia Guidestones, and it talked about reducing planet population down to a certain thing. I don't know what that is, if it's true or not, or whatever. But there has always been an obsession among the super rich that there's too many people living in this world. Now, they the reason for the why the super rich, the affluent, and the super wealthy, as they call them, the 1%, are obsessed for the most part with reducing the population, is because the more people that are on this earth, the less value that their net worth has. So, for instance, like the more middle class and upper middle class people there are, the less worth and value the super rich have. So the super rich have a vested interest, just like you see in third world countries and also in totalitarian regimes, that there's a small amount of people who have enormous wealth, and then there's a massive underclass, and there's no middle class in between. Now, so the objective there is to cull the middle class, as particularly the upper middle class who are doing really well. What is this climate change movement predominantly made out of? Do you see many people from the ghetto marching? Do you see many poor white trash marching? Do you see many people with no money in council estates marching? You see the middle and the upper middle class. That's who you see marching. And what are their children being told? There's no hope. The world is ending soon. What better way to get rid of the people that are draining the finances of the super elite and the super wealthy more than to get them to kill themselves? If you look at all these takeovers, it's always the middle class who gets slaughtered. Always. Even financial ones, when they have when they have downturns in the property market, who's the most hurt by it? Mr. and Mrs. Whitebread with their house in the suburbs and the deck and the pool. Never the people in the ghetto, never the super rich. Always the middle class. The middle class are the most disposable because they're the ones whose financial worth and ability to make money is eating up the finances and the value of the money of the super rich. This is why you have groups like the Socialist Workers' Party in Britain and People Before Profit in Ireland, exclusively made up of the upper middle class. Why? Because they're self-annihilating. It's a self-annihilation ritual. That's what's really going on. So children, teenagers, we already know, they talk about this high rates of suicide among the middle class. That's absolutely true. And the more affluent the country becomes, the more suicide increases. Yep, absolutely true. You look at Western Europe and North America, suicide is through the roof. Give them now one more reason. And who are killing themselves again? The middle class. So give them one more reason not to live. Raise an entire generation of children who've been hexed and spellbound and enchanted into believing by watching every TV program, every school lesson, every university professor, every government official telling them that the world is coming to an end. They can either sit there or through this nihilistic approach that often appears during teenage years, which in the past used to be channeled into things like youth movements like punk and goth and teddy boys and mods and rockers. That gets replaced with nothing because there is no culture. At the same time that they push this idea that humanity is doomed, we also have no culture in the West today, where there is no great music scenes, no great movie scenes, no underground youth movements. And all these things like Extinction Rebellion, they're all establishment led. The climate strikes, they're all establishment led. And these young people are not finding their own feet, developing their own youth movements and their own cultures, because they've been placed in a cultural wasteland where the only indicators they have are prods and initiatives given to them from on high by the super wealthy, the Bill Gates of this world, the George Soroses of this world. It's as clear as day How many times I've been saying to you over the years, most human beings are flesh automatons suspended in a sea of sorcery. If you can't see that now regarding this whole thing, then you're really not looking hard enough. Look how people respond to anyone who says anything about the Greta March or the anything. They're savaged in the same way the Bolsheviks savaged people in the past, the Khmer Rouge savage. They do it online. That the humanity of people is torn asunder. They cannot have a debate. Instant attack, because the average meat golem wants to believe that they're always on the winning team, and this is when you have something like this perceived as the winning team, we are in deep, deep, deep trouble as a Western society. This is not fun. This is and this like these kids said we have to do something to change the environment, to use less resources. Not one of them is told to give up their iPad. Not one of them is told to stop going to McDonald's. Not one of them is told to walk to school or cycle to school. None of that. They have all the trappings of all the things that cause all the pollution in the world, but they're told, see, this is ideology again. If you have common sense and you're brought to ecological or environmental issues by genuine concern, you will say things like, oh, I feel bad about, having this like big expensive car that guzzles petrol or diesel. Oh, Jesus, my Tesla is like, it's not good for the environment because the rare earth metals inside it are actually as worse, if not, wind turbines. They're not really, you need a diesel generator to start them. How is that, fossil fuel free? And so on. Where an ideologue goes, we must save the planet. Okay, start with yourself. What? You see, it's just purely the mantra, purely the ideology, pure possession. Now you think long and hard about what's going on. When this video is over, go to those pictures of those kids that you see at those events. You see very few smiling faces. You see lots of glumness. The only ones that seem to think they're wonderful events are weirdos. I mean, real creepy weirdos. They're I don't know. They're the people that you wouldn't have them babysit your kids, and they work for TV stations and national broadcasters and big media outlets. You wouldn't want them anywhere near you. This is weird. I am basically in a car park in the middle of nowhere, and as soon as I started talking about this subject, all these fucking weirdos, like zombies, like the fucking Dawn of the Dead, start walking around the car looking at me. It's really and what, like their mouths open and gormless. It's almost like a spell. It's just kind of, this never happens here. This is an empty car park in an industrial estate. Unbelievable. They're suddenly like walking around the car. It's almost like they've been the things that I've been talking about has actually transmitted into their brains at some level. There's proof that the one I'm talking about is true. They're looking for their ideology, and they probably, where are these fuckers coming from? And they're literally stopping by the car and looking at me. And it's fucking raining outside. They should be sheltering. It's like fucking Day of the Dead. And that's what you saw too at these Extinction Rebellion things. They all lie down dead like zombies. They cover themselves in blood, fake blood. They're just coming like fucking zombies. This is the power. This is the charisma thing again. This is how you know I'm talking with compassion, with passion and conviction. Is because they're coming over. They're sensing something. Walking down the street. Let's walk into this car park in an industrial estate for no reason. This is, when you see humanity for what it really is, it's not pretty. And you realize that's why these people say we've got to wake the masses up. We've got to get them, mobilize them to wake up. No, once you and your loved ones are safe, fuck the rest of them. Your job is not to save the earth. That's unbelievable what's just going on right now. But I'm literally waiting for one to knock on the side window. But I don't know if you can see. But yeah, this is it. This is something we need to be aware of. And if you have children and they're coming home from school gratified or extinction rebellionated, you tell them that there's another side to the story, and You should be happy and enjoy your life, and get out there and do it. And don't be listening to what governments and people on TV tell you, because they're not yet not doing it. That's what I saw. The only ones that seem to be obsessed about this are people who work for big TV stations, and they're all like, "Oh, look," because that all serves them as well. Because if you remember that you work for a national broadcaster, this is the thing: the Irish national broadcaster, is she going to knock on the fucking door? The Irish national broadcaster (RTE) couldn't get, and people were RT employers. They were actually feeding people towards their personal Twitter pages with their carrying their their webcams uh, through the crowd, like in a state of religious rapture. And meanwhile, when they had the water protest, and there was a few thousand people in Marion Square. Meanwhile, when the city of Dublin was practically shut down by maybe up to 300,000 people during the protest, they were saying that the RT news reports would show a handful of people and say who looked like they were down and outs or nuts, and they would put things up there like a crowd of a few hundred showed up in Dublin city centre today to protest the government's water charges. This is what it's like. This is how deep the ideology runs, and this will never end. This will never. You don't think that you're going to wake up one day and say, the day will arrive when this is over. The day will arrive when this no longer exists. The day will arrive when meat golems and people possessed by ideology will come to an end and everyone will wake up. It's never going to happen. We live on a planet that has been evolved as well as created to generate this situation, so people like us who can see through it can escape it and live meaningful lives without being dependent upon being told what to do, think, say, imagine, or believe. That we won't be possessed by the trappings of dogma and the trappings of ideology. That the avatars that we create will be avatars of survival, not avatars of necessity. So look out for those dead eyes and make sure that you and your loved ones don't end up with them yourselves. Look after yourselves. Bye.